Welcome to the JRPG Canon, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game to learn a little bit about video games. I'm Sam.
I'm Bernard.
And today we'll be covering Atelier Marie, the Alchemist of Salburg for the PS1, specifically playing Atelier Marie plus the PS2 port, as that's the one that's available in English on the Atelier Marie remake, I think. There's so many versions of this game, it's impossible to actually know which version they localized, but it's whichever one they localized in the Digital Deluxe Edition. That's the one we're going to do. It's marked as original, but it's obviously not the PS1 game, so who knows. Have you played any Atelier games before, Bernard?
No.
I have played a little bit of Atelier Aisha, and I've played all of Atelier Ryza 2. And then the first time I was going to write notes for this, for the audio version of the podcast, I accidentally beat the entire game in one sitting, because I was playing the remake in that one. Other than that, I am a fan of Atelier and have so many games that I've just not ever played.
I mean, there's a lot of these games.
Yeah, they release yearly, and this one came out in 1997, so there's a lot of them. In the last couple of years, it's been more than yearly. Like, I think last year we got Atelier Yumia and Atelier Rislariana, I think that's how you pronounce it. We got both of those in 1 year, so it's now more than one a year, and I will never, ever, ever catch up. A little history on this game, and by a little, I mean an actual very little, because I couldn't find out a whole lot about the creation of Atelier Marie. There was one interview with 4Gamer. That's the main citation of all of Wikipedia, and most of the other articles I could find on it all just link back to this one 4Gamer interview. It's a good interview. It's in Japanese, so I was using the translation from, I think it was Nintendo Life was the one that had most of it translated. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember. There were a couple of interviews when the remake came out, but almost all of them are focusing on what's new in the remake, and they don't bring up the original work almost at all. So, if you will, allow me to be another in the long line of people summarizing this one 4Gamer interview. So, Gust was founded in 1993 in Nagano, Japan, and it was the first game software developer in Nagano. They started making Dojin games for the PC-98 before breaking onto the PlayStation with Falcata, a strategy simulation game based in ancient Persia. This put them on the radar of Shinichi Yoshike, who was looking for a job in the game industry and had been working on a design document for a game that would eventually become Atelier Marie. He said in the interview that he had finished most of the design document before his interview with Gust. He just was chomping at the bit to make this game. Because in his studies at university, he learned two things that inspired him to make Atelier. First, he learned about the history of real-world alchemists and how they would try and make fantastical items out of very mundane ingredients. He had a hobby of collecting things, knickknacks and whatnot, and he thought that a game where you went and collected items and then used them for alchemy would be compelling and stick out amongst the tons of RPGs that were coming out in the 90s. The other thing that he learned is that German words sound cool, so he created Atelier Marie, the Alchemist of Salburg, and filled a lot of the world building with cool-sounding German terms. The narrative tone of the game came from Yoshike's appreciation of classic children's novels, specifically citing Anne of Green Gables in the interview. To further contrast from the other games at the time, he didn't want to have a chosen one go on a huge adventure, but rather make a cozy, or in his exact words, a fluffy game about a failed daughter student who can't pass her classes, and the game is smaller in scale and just about exploring the town and helping the townspeople with their mundane requests. Atelier Marie was first published on PlayStation on May 23rd in 1997, and it was a smash hit. It got an expanded port to Saturn, a deluxe version on PS1, a Windows version, a WonderSwan port, a PS2 remake, and a Dreamcast remake. The Dreamcast remake had a really cool feature where if you put it in your PC, you would get some cool Atelier Marie wallpapers and some behind the scenes info, and also a virus, because whoever put the PC bonuses on the Dreamcast disc had their computer was infected with the virus, and so they had to recall the game and put out a statement in as many places as they could telling people to not put the Dreamcast disc in their PC. One of the cooler things that I learned about the impact of Atelier Marie wasn't when I was researching this episode, but when I was researching the episode we did on Rhapsody, a musical adventure. The creator of Rhapsody, Nikawa, he said that he saw that Gust, who was a really small company who had just come from making Dojin games for the PC-98, could make an RPG that was this good and had gone on to be this successful. So he got his friends over at Nippon Ichi Software to pivot into making RPGs, which is wild because they're like the kings of B-list RPGs at this point, and they got inspired by Atelier Marie. When Atelier Marie was remade in 2023, they made a bunch of changes to how the original game worked while keeping the spirit of the original game. And in the digital deluxe edition, they included a newly localized version of the PS2 edition of the game, which is what we will be playing right after this brief musical interlude. All right, so I have complicated feelings about Atelier Marie.
Yeah.
All of the things that it gets right, it gets very right. And all of the things that it gets wrong, it also gets right, is the best way that I can sum it up. Like, I'm not saying that it's a perfect game, but it's very, very interesting. And it's one of the first games in a long time that's changed how I feel about JRPGs as a medium. So, like in Dragon Quest, if you fail against a fight, you're sent back to the castle with half your gold, but all of your experience, meaning you never actually fail. This is very cool. And I've gone on at length at this point of why I think it works so well in RPGs, especially ones about heroes who never give up in the face of adversity. But a side effect of this paradigm is the fact that the game can never actually be hard and you can never actually lose because you just keep trying, you grind a little, and eventually you will overcome it. Even if you die so much that you never get any better gold to get more gear, you will level up enough where then you just are now able to win it. It's almost always just a numbers game, and if you make your number go up high enough, you can overcome everything. So in Atelier Marie, when you lose a fight and you go back to the atelier and you lose some of your held items, but you don't get a game over, it's just like in Dragon Quest, except that you can lose an atelier. There's a
And we did.
We did. There's a time limit on these games. It's a luxurious 5-year time limit, but still, if and when the 5 years rolls around and you don't pass your exam, you get a game over. So when you lose in battle, you lose a few days of time. It takes a couple days to get back to town. And your time is a resource that is finite and you can never ever get it back. So failure is punishing and should be avoided, like in a Final Fantasy style game. But in those games, you lose progress when you game over and you go back to your previous save. But in Atelier, you don't lose progress, but you make it harder to pass your test. So in our first attempt through the game, we lost. We didn't go all the way to the 5-year mark to lose, but it is very clear that we were not going to get out of the spiral that we were in. We would die, which would make us lose time, which would make us fail our quests, which would mean we didn't get any money. So we couldn't buy any items or armor. So we wouldn't win any more fights, which would make us die, which would make us lose time. And we were just circling the drain. Could we have hunkered down and made it out of there? Maybe. But we also just realized that we made a goof and we started over. If I were better at saving my game, we could have reloaded a save from before we goofed up, which is likely what all of the Japanese kids playing this game in the 90s did. But we were close enough to the beginning of the game, and my mistakes happened basically as soon as I got control, that just
Yeah.
starting over and trying again was way less difficult than trying to right the ship that I had capsized so wonderfully. The pre-Sophie Atelier games are known for being difficult, but having played a few of them, I never understood why that was. They were cozy little games with deep crafting and shallow combat, but now after losing in Marie, do I get it? Because in almost no RPGs, even ones with game overs, can you lose? You have unlimited lives, either literally in Dragon Quest and Pokemon, or basically through the power of saving your game and trying again. But Atelier games have a lose condition. You can play the game for 30 hours, get to the end, and then lose, which is cool. What does it mean? I don't know. It took me like almost an entire week to write these notes. We recorded on Friday. It is now Wednesday. This is an interesting thing that I haven't thought about before, and it's cool and neat, I guess. Like besides this, there's not really a whole lot of meat to dig into in this game. Like the sprites are cute, the portraits are all hot, the combat is simple, but it has some rewarding feeling when you figure stuff out. The crafting is basic, even by 90s standards, and the music is catchy. That's the
Yeah.
rest of the game outside of this. But the heart and soul of Atelier Marie is its game feel. So you have cozy vibes, but a stressful deadline and the ability to lose, which doesn't really happen in JRPGs, which is why I think that this game deserves to be in the JRPG canon. Like, obviously, it was one of the first cozy RPGs, and that's an entire industry nowadays, so it belongs in the canon for those reasons. But for our hypothetical researcher that's trying to understand the soul of JRPGs 1 hour at a time, it's how this game interacts with the human player of the game that is the most important and most interesting to me,
Yeah.
which is cool.
I did not expect us to have such an interesting design dilemma with this game. I expected this
Mhm.
game to be fairly uninteresting.
Mhm.
I was just sort of going along with it because it's a thing Sam's into,
Mhm.
like this whole podcast.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's interesting. I don't think I want to play more of it,
No.
but it's cool.
Playing it last week got the Atelier bug back in me, so I started Atelier Ryza 3, and I did not just keep playing this game. For Moon, I kept playing Moon, but for this game, I'm like, thank you for your service. I will play a game that's good.
I will say it is legitimately a mistake on their part that they did not have it where if you press the action button next to the cauldron, it brings up the alchemy menu.
Absolutely. Like if there are so many like small nitpicks that I can do, and the fact that your cauldron is just a decoration is wild to me.
I mean, in the manual for this new release, it says your cauldron looks impressive, but you can't fucking do anything with it
Yeah.
because they realize, yeah, you're gonna try to do alchemy that way.
Yeah, especially because this one is being released in English so far after the fact, and in every other Atelier game that I've ever played, you bring up the synthesis menu by walking up to your cauldron and pressing the X button. So, especially in this one, they had to be like, no, 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 don't do it that way. Open up a menu. And like in menu-based JRPGs, I tend to like not enjoy them very much. But this one, I think it's like I think I brought it up during the thing. The menu inputs are like every frame. Like there's like no lag. It is very snappy to get through and do what you're doing, which makes it suck less. It's not like I'm wading through a bunch of unimportant menus to do the game. It's like, oh, I need to go do this thing, and it's easy to navigate and do that.
You can really spam buying a bunch of books.
Yeah, you can. Don't do that one. Oh, yeah. So if for you audio listeners, if you didn't watch the video, I you start the game with like I think it's
3,000, I
3,000.
think, yeah.
Yeah. And so I go to the shop and it's like, oh, do you want to buy Alchemy 101 and Alchemy 102 and Alchemy 103? And I'm like, absolutely. That's probably the basic stuff that starts the game. And so I just hammer through the X button real fast. But the first one is a cheap like 100 gold, and then the second one is like 750, and the last one is like 1,000. And so I had none of my startup costs to get me going in the game, and that I did that almost immediately when the game started and never was able to recover.
Which maybe that gave us a an accelerated view of what it's like to lose in this game. So
Hmm.
maybe that was actually a good thing that
Yeah,
we got to fuck up early
yeah.
on and see what it's like to lose at this game.
Because who knows? Maybe the one where we were doing better, maybe we couldn't get the Philosopher's Stone by the end of the fifth year. Like maybe we would still lose on this one, but we at least would have lost more with the first playthrough.
Yeah, we were doing rough that one.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm really glad that I played this. Like I almost felt like when this game got commissioned for us to cover, I almost thought that this would be just like basic and just a thing. Like when we played Rhapsody, when that one came out, and NIS sent us over a copy of the game, so I made a video of it. Rhapsody is cool, but I don't think Rhapsody itself belongs in the JRPG canon, besides the fact that it's NIS's first RPG, and that's all they do now. But other than that, it just was basic. And I was figuring this would be the same thing, but it both is and isn't that. And it's going to sit in the back of my head of just like losing in a JRPG is just odd, and I don't know what it means, and I don't know what lesson to learn from it. And so I think I'm just going to think over it for a long time. But that brings us to the end of today's episode. If you like what you heard today and you're not already subscribed to RPG Book Club, you should check us out wherever you get your podcasts. After you subscribe, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations will help us offset the cost of running the show. If you donate $1 or more a month, you'll get access to our bonus feed, which has after shows for each episode of the podcast, as well as bonus seasons of the show that covers the Tales of series and the Star Ocean series. If you donate $5 or more a month, you'll also get your name shouted out at the end of every episode, a little like this. Shoutouts to Dragonslayer19, Freddie Rodriguez, and JFro Prime. And then finally, at $20 or more a month, you can make me read a one-sentence shout out to whatever it is that you like, such as El Tantavi, who wants you to check out aftermath.site, a worker-owned, reader-supported news site covering video games, the internet, and the cultures that surround them, as well as Kildranis, who says to check out Podcasters Assemble. It's a documentary-style, crowdsourced movie hype and rewatch podcast. Every season, podcasters from around the world are assembled to review, reminisce, and riff on a popular franchise. And then shoutouts to Vimk, who says, the captain of the house guard had a head of melty scars and a missing leg, which an indifferently talented bone adept had replaced for her. And then shoutouts to It's Clear Time, who says, for you TTRPG nerds, check out Fabula Ultima. I'm not affiliated with the game, I just think it's neat. For the JRPG Canon, I've been Sam.
I'm Bernard.
Go play some games.